Very pleased to say the Business Secretary, Alok Sharma, joins us in the studio. Mr Sharma, lovely to have you on the programme this morning. I suppose we had better start with Brexit, just to change from the norm. As of this moment, what is it, almost 7:20 on Monday morning, what's the state of the negotiations?
Well, the state of negotiations is, as the Prime Minister said yesterday, is that we will continue discussing. We are, of course, apart on certain matters. But as the Prime Minister said, we don't want to walk away from these talks. People expect us, business expect us in the UK to go the extra mile, and that's precisely what we're doing. But one point I do want to make, Neil, and I've been on this programme, very regularly over the past few years, and I've always said that any deal that we get with the EU has to respect the fact that we are a sovereign country, we're an independent country, and that's the basis on which we will do a deal if there is a deal to be done.
But we're not all being wrong to be slightly more optimistic about the prospect of a trade deal, this side of the weekend than perhaps on Friday. I mean, the fact that talks are continuing suggests there is the opportunity for progress to be made, even if the progress hasn't yet been made.
Well, of course, we are continuing to talk. As I said, I think that's what people expect. And as the Prime Minister said, where there is life, there is hope. But we are apart in certain areas. So, for instance, the issue on dynamic alignment, we've been very clear, is that what we can't do as a sovereign nation is to accept the fact that if the EU changes rules, we somehow have to follow suit. Fisheries, there are a number of areas that discussions are continuing. But, of course, you would have seen the reaction for business as well. They're keen that these discussions continue and we reach a positive outcome.
Still, with every day that passes now until the 31st of December, the pressure on the government to actually secure a deal surely becomes greater. There are 17 days left, and businesses still as yet do not know the trading conditions that they'll be operating under in 18 days' time. Well,
so what I would say is that actually whatever type of relationship we have after the transition period, there are changes that are coming. And, I've been writing to hundreds of thousands of businesses on a weekly basis. We've been running webinars. We've been talking through the business representative groups to millions of businesses and making the point that they need to be prepared for a whole range of things that are going to change. So, for instance, customs arrangements will change irrespective of whatever kind of relationship we have. If people from the UK are looking to travel to the EU after the transition period, they need to have a look and see whether there are any visa requirements, any work permit requirements. There's a whole range of things that can already be done by businesses, but I accept that, they want us to conclude, and that's what I hope we will be able to do.
Indeed, and just on that topic, yesterday I was speaking with the president of the BCC. I mean, pretty clearly, they are anxious that there's still not yet the level of detail that businesses need to be able to operate, for example, on rules of origin, on tariffs. This information is not yet out there. Businesses can do 90% of the preparation, but you yourself know that in that final 10% could be the difference between that business being successful and that business failing next year.
No, and I understand that, but I think what you will also have seen, for instance, from the auto sector, the Society for Motor Manufacturers and Traders, in response to the fact that we're continuing discussions, they were pleased with that. And I know that Adam Marshall and other colleagues at the British Chamber of Commerce will also be urging us to go the extra mile, which is what we're doing.
Reports this morning that the Chancellor is considering using furlough and other COVID-related matters to help businesses that might be affected by no deal in 2021. How accurate is that?
Well, you wouldn't expect me to come on your programme.
I cross my fingers.
Absolutely, you wouldn't expect me to comment on that. But look, of course, we are discussing all eventualities. We are having internal discussions about all of these matters. But, let's see where we get to in terms of these discussions. We will, of course, have to respond to any eventuality at the end of that. And we discuss these matters internally, of course.
We'll talk in COVID just after this question, but before that, supermarkets are apparently starting to stockpile. Is that wise business practice in your mind right now?
Well, so I think, we had this same discussion during the time of the first lockdown. And actually, people were able to shop. People were able to get items from shops. And so, I'm very confident that actually the supply chains will still be in place. I would say to everyone, just do your normal shopping as you would do. And I think we'll find we're going to be absolutely fine.
Let's move, of course, to perhaps the most key element in the government's public health strategy for dealing with COVID-19, vaccination. We're all expecting news in the coming days about other vaccines coming on stream. But in terms of that which we have right now, Are we any closer to being able to give us a number on how many people have received the vaccine? The Foreign Secretary couldn't do it yesterday.
Well, I think we'll have sort of tens of thousands of people who've been vaccinated so far. We know that...
Tens of thousands?
Yes, I mean, I think that is the case. If that's wrong, I'm sure we will come back and correct that. But I think we, of course, have a steady stream of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which is coming through. This will depend, of course, how quickly we can get this stuff manufactured. As you know, it has to be stored at minus 70 degrees, so there are particular manufacturing processes. We've always said, Neil, that the bulk of the vaccination programme will take place early on next year. But of course, the fact that we've started is very positive.
Of course, GP surgeries starting their rollout today. We're beginning to see the vaccine getting into care homes as well. Just in terms of the infrastructure, as you say, the Pfizer vaccine requires that incredibly cold refrigeration to be kept viable. How are we ensuring that that happens in care home settings? Well,
so you're absolutely right. That's been one of the issues here, is to make sure how do you get this stuff across. So there is work that DHSC, Department of Health, has been doing with the MHRA and, of course, those who are then supplying this vaccine to make sure that that is possible. As you said, in care homes, we will be making sure that by Christmas, people will be able to get this vaccine.
Huge concern in parts of London that infection appears to be spiralling out of control. There is clearly a very real case for London to enter into Tier 3 now. Are you minded to see that happen?
Well, look, we have to look at the statistics. So we've always said that we're going to look at a number of key measures: infection rates, growth rates in the infection, what is the availability of health services, particularly hospital beds in any particular area. This week, we will be looking at those stats, and we will come to a conclusion, actually not just on London, but actually across England.
I mean, there are areas further north than here that could well move from Tier 3 down to Tier 2. All of this remains under review. But the reason I focus specifically on London is this morning we are hearing that schools in Greenwich will be closed from this evening. Now, that seems to fly in the face of the line that we have constantly heard from the government: keep the schools open, because if they close, there is irreparable harm for children. What are you going to do about the situation in Greenwich? Well, so you're right, and that is indeed the policy, is that we want to keep schools open. And I want to thank actually all the teachers, the head teachers, who have managed to keep 99% of schools open in England. We are ensuring that home testing kits are available in schools where there are particular issues with infections. We're making sure that the lateral flow tests are actually going out to them. And we will work with local authorities on a case-by-case basis. But the overall message... You can't be happy with what's going on in Greenwich, that the council leader there has unilaterally decided to shut the schools. Well,
our overall message is that we want to keep schools open, as you said, and we've heard this from the chief medical officers as well over the past few months, is the fact that, for young people, for students, the best thing we can do to support them is to keep them in education, because we know there are all sorts of negative consequences when that doesn't happen.
Okay, so what is the message to Greenwich then? Open the schools back up?
Well, look, I mean, the message overall message is that we want to make sure that schools stay open. We will work with individual local authorities, and of course that discussion will be ongoing. Obviously, I'm not in the Department for Education,
of course.
But that discussion will be ongoing to see how we can support Greenwich and indeed any other local authority that comes forward.
We're also, apparently, this is reported, we haven't had this direct from the Mayor of London himself, but Sadiq Khan potentially suggesting that schools should close early this year. I wonder how you feel about that, and also about the mass expansion of asymptomatic testing in secondary school environments. Yeah,
well, I mean, as I said, the plan is for schools to stay open. We think that's the best thing for pupils, and that's the basis on which we're proceeding.
Is there a means by which schools could be compelled to remain open?
Well, I think schools actually have remained open, Neil. So, as I said, 99% of schools have remained open. The vast majority of pupils have been going into school. So, we want to work with schools. We want to work with teachers, with head teachers. We want to work with local authorities. That's the basis on which we've been proceeding, and that's the basis on which we will carry on.
Just on Christmas, because of course many people's minds. Some of us are working on Christmas. I hasten to point out. I'm sure you.
Well, I may be as well. Who knows?
May be as well. But we heard from the Foreign Secretary yesterday. Look, that Christmas window will remain open, come what may. Are you entirely happy with that? Just given the rates of infection in various parts of the country right now are pretty alarming. There will be a boost into infection rates because of this Christmas window. undoubtedly some people will die as a result.
Well, look, we've taken obviously a balanced and proportionate approach to this. So we're talking about 3 households mixing during that period, and of course Christmas is a time when families want to come together. And I'm, as you said, you'll be working. Who knows? I may be working as well. But I hope both of us have an opportunity to spend some time with our families during that window. And I think it's right and it's balanced and proportionate. And as I said, that is not going to be changing.
Whilst you have you, and you can't leave the studio whilst the cameras are on you, I'm going to be quite cheeky. We've heard from Donald Trump that key people in the White House will be first in line to receive the vaccination. I'm wondering if there are any special people in the British government that might be jumping the queue.
Certainly not that I'm aware of. And I'm never someone who's always wanted to jump the queue.
Alok Sharma, it's really good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.